So, Shawna, finding, attracting, and hiring talent is only getting harder in the construction industry. I know demand is going way up and the available workforce is going way down. And so I know that's a problem that you're kind of trying to help solve. And so I think a good place to start would be if you could just tell us a little bit about the problems that you've seen construction companies face when it comes to hiring.
Yeah. So from a high level perspective, and I guess there we could debate about what the reasons for it are, but society has sort of steered people away from the trades. It's recognized, I think, more and more how important the trades are, but because of that, we've created this gap in people coming in to replace the boomers, which is like the 40% of the workforce that are retiring now. And in a lot of ways, the industry needs to become a better place to work in order to attract more people. And I see a lot more companies are doing that, trying to kind of evolve with the times and level up what they have to offer in terms of getting people trained up and interested in doing this type of work because college isn't for everyone, right?
Yeah. So that is a great summary of on a high level what's happening in the industry. What do you see happening for like individual companies that you talk to? Like what are they struggling? How do they talk about the struggle that they're having to find new employees and ones that are skilled?
Yeah, it's a competition. So it's twofold. It's a competition for the people that are currently working in the industry, right? So there are still a lot of companies that are doing things the old way that are not really great places to work. And so the competition is just around companies being able to showcase what they have to offer to attract those people that are working at their competitors and maybe not so happy. Then the other half of it is bringing new people into the industry. That's a matter of really being able to show that these types of careers are available
Hmm.
and show what they look like and how much you can earn and what the career paths are, and to be able to attract people either from high schools or colleges or even from other industries that are doing mass layoffs, but then also having something in place to be able to mentor or train or skill them for those
Yeah.
types of roles.
Yeah. And you have these kind of like, I don't want to, give away your secret sauce, but I know you have these kind of three pillars that you help companies go through to refine their hiring process. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So the three pillars are story, software, and screening. So story is literally the story that you're telling to the market, like the world in general, from high level society, like what is your trade? What does it do for the community? What types of jobs exist, what they look like, what the career paths are, again, what you can earn, what a day in the life is like, what's the good, the bad, the ugly, tell it like it is, to the people that it's right for, right? That would be attracted to that. And then you're talking to society as a whole in telling the story and trying to raise awareness, clear up misperceptions of the industry, try to help reduce some of the negative stigma that's associated with it. And then you're talking to people in other industries, right? Because construction is competing with gig work, it's competing with kind of like service and retail, um, and it's competing with other, other types of industries that do a better job of talking about who they are and what they do, right? Like the gig work is kind of just a popular thing. Retail and like food service and stuff, I mean, they're just advertising, mass advertising for consumers, right? And so like they're very well known places that you could go. Construction isn't really doing that so much, isn't out there kind of
Yeah.
talking about what they do and what's so great about it. And then you're speaking on a lower level than that, you're speaking to the industry, right? It's people that are already working in the industry but are working for your competitors. So who you are compared to those other companies, what you have to offer compared to them, what doing a job at your company, how that's different than doing the same job at another company, and kind of, peeling back the curtain a little bit and showing, who you are and putting everything in context and answering questions and showing people what's in it for them.
Right.
And then at the very bottom level of that is you have a job to fill, right? You have like one opening for one position at your company. And that is the point where companies first decide, hey, we should advertise that and talk about, you know, what it is like to do this job here. And then when they do that, even it's not done in a way that is really marketing related. They're not really advertising the job. They're posting kind of a legal job description that is a long list of tasks and demands, essentially. And so that's the story piece. And then the software is having an organized way. If you're telling a good story, right, you're bringing people in. Okay. Now you need an efficient way to manage the influx of people that you're bringing in. So an organized process that you can move people through in a streamlined way, that's going to have automations set up so that it's not very disorganized and like manually, administratively burdensome. It's a growing talent pool that helps you to be proactive instead of starting over every time you have a new position open. You now have a database of people that have applied in the past to either a specific position or a general application that you now can pull from. And then it's also going to give a quality candidate experience, because when you have one position open, you're rejecting 99% of the people that apply. So the software helps you to kind of automate communication touch points. If you've seen any job seekers on LinkedIn or anywhere on the socials, you can hear how discouraged and frustrated they are, right? They talk
Right.
about applying to hundreds of jobs and just hearing nothing. And so
Which is kind of a shame, because if they were a good fit for the job, they just weren't the best fit. They could be a fit for a future role too. Way less
absolutely.
work to like look through people you've already vetted. But
Hmm.
if I don't hear back from that company, I don't really want to talk to them again. you
Yeah,
know,
you feel kind of disrespected,
right?
especially if you're spending time, customizing your resume and answering 100 application questions. And if the application process isn't streamlined, spending a half hour typing in everything that's already on your resume or taking, assessments and then just never hearing anything back. And that's the first impression of your company that you're giving people. So the software, again, allows you to be efficient and organized, but also helps to create a good experience for those people that you unfortunately have to reject, but may want to reach out to in the future. So you have a database of viable future hires, not a database of people that you've burned,
Right.
blew off, and ignored, that are not going to want to be interested when you have something open. So then the last piece is the screening. So there's two parts to the screening. There's the application screening, and then there's interviews. So the application screening sort of ties into the software, where you can have the position must-haves, the criteria that you will not consider somebody that doesn't have ABC, put into the application, so that when applicants say they don't have those things, you're leveraging the capabilities, the automations of the software, where the software can then automatically disqualify those people, but also communicate with them. So they get that compassionate touch point. If you're, writing emails that are not just cold, canned, generic rejection letters. And then I'll use also those application screening questions to capture the nice to haves in addition to the must haves, so that you can quickly at a glance see who's got the above and beyond things that you want for like your ideal candidate without having to look for it in the resume, scrutinize the resume, try to figure out if it's implied in the resume, make a phone call to see if they have it, play phone tag. So that's part of the screening also. And then the interview guides are helping companies get beyond skills check and vibe check, which yes, they might have the skills, but are they a culture fit? And just going off of somebody's general vibes isn't going to tell you if they are a culture fit. And you can have people that are very charismatic, good speakers, portray themselves in a falsely positive manner. And then you can also have people who don't necessarily interview well, but who are, absolutely great, wonderful, skilled workers and also, very humble, which is a good trait on the job, but not necessarily a great interviewing trait. Right. So the interview guides are designed at getting at those specific values, behaviors, and personality traits that align with the companies and the teams, and also that align with what is going to be most predictive of success in particular roles. And then being able to pull that information out with evidence, and so that you're not stuck relying on vibes and either taking a chance on someone who you think might be good and just maybe didn't get a sense that they interviewed really well, and also crossing your fingers on this person who just seemed really nice and friendly and great, and went to the same college as you, and so you bonded over the sports team or something.
Right. When you talk about the interview guides, is that like a document or what is that?
Yeah, so it's an actual interview guide, and then if I'm implementing the software for the company, then they go right into the software. The job postings go into the software, the interview guides go into the software, and it's kind of a complete package that works together, which is what is my definition or my particular brand of a hiring system.
Okay, Shawna, to wrap up today's call, I wanted to hear from you. I know a lot of people have different opinions on what should go into job postings wherever they're being posted. What are some of the top mistakes that you see companies making in their job postings?
So the biggest mistake, I think, and it's not necessarily a mistake, but it's just the difference between HR and marketing, right? So your marketing team advertises your service, your product, right, in a way that really sells it, makes it resonate, really like talks about the best features and benefits and makes it really exciting and attractive. And that's what your marketing team does, and that's how they advertise your service or product. What HR does is not marketing related, right? Like HR is a very compliance focused department or function, right? And a job description, as it was originally intended, is sort of a legal framework to mitigate the risk of having an employee that you let go not be able to say, hey, I lost my job because I refused to do, ABC, and I was never told that that was going to be part of my job, right? So a job description is something that you have on file that legally protects you from that person being able to say that they were never told about that. So you have a legal job description that you share with your employee, and it says these are all the things that you might be asked to do as part of this job, and these are all the requirements for to be able to get this position. So you can't say that I was discriminated against and that's why I wasn't promoted, when really it's because you don't have this skill or qualification. That just became the default advertisement, a marketing advertisement for an open position.
Right.
And it's not compelling. It's not interesting. It's actually pretty overwhelming and boring and demanding the way that it's written, more like a contract than an advertisement. And I always liken it to going to the grocery store and having every box turned sideways so all you can see is the ingredients and the nutrition labels. And then just having to like weed through all that to, figure out if it tastes delicious. When if you just turn the box around, you can see like picture of what it looks like, and then just like, the tags of, this has got high protein. Yeah, I'm looking for something with a lot of protein. So the biggest mistake is taking that legal job description, which is a long list of why, and making that your advertisement. It doesn't answer any questions. It doesn't put that role in context. It doesn't tell somebody how doing that role at your company is different than doing the same thing anywhere else. Because unless it's an entry level job, you're marketing this opportunity to somebody who already knows what that position does and already knows what you need to have skills and requirements wise to get that job. What they want to know is, what's the mission? What's the context in your environment? What is it like to work with your company? What is in it for me? How are you going to solve my problems as a job seeker, as an employee? And that's the biggest mistake, is not writing it like a marketing advertisement, but just taking this legal contractual framework and saying, slapping the words exciting opportunity on it, like that's just going to make it better.
Awesome. That is really helpful. Thank you so much for your time today, Shawna.
Thank you.